Today, we have another example of why homeschooling is bad. This video is from a channel called Repent and Believe, and it is called The Consequences of Believing in Evolution. So let's watch this video and see what the consequences of thinking science is real are.
Evolution has been the catalyst of what we have seen happen in culture, and not only does it have
Hey fellas, is it gay to evolve?
extreme implications, but evolution will further the deterioration of America and the rest of the world if Christians do not act now. And
Oh my god, the self-importance is so unreal. Japan has never been a Christian country, and they've been a pretty powerful and stable country for a very long time. China has never been a Christian country, and they are, what, 4,000 years old? They have been one of the most powerful countries in the world since they began, and currently are probably number 2 and aiming at number 1. They're doing just fine, it seems like. So, what exactly are you arguing, guy?
in this video, I will show you the logical conclusions drawn from an evolutionary worldview. To preface this video, I would like to direct those of you that have not seen our video on the
Wasn't that a preface already?
contradictions of evolution in the Bible to watch that video first. This video will focus less on the differences of Christianity and evolution and more on what kind of morals stem from evolution. I would also like to address that by evolution, I will be talking about the evolutionary idea that people evolved without God, not the idea that God used evolution. There are many reasons why I will not address God using evolution to create people, one of the reasons being that this was addressed in the video that I already made on this. I will be specific.
So, in the video he made before this, I'm guessing, I haven't seen it, and I'm probably not going to watch it because I don't care whether evolution and Christianity contradict in the opinion of a 15-year-old. But I would imagine he said, yes, they do contradict, that God couldn't have used evolution. But even if he did say God could have used evolution, he clearly doesn't think that God did because, I mean, this is about the consequences of believing in evolution, of thinking evolution is real at all. So, let's continue.
Specifically addressing those who use evolution as a means to suggest that God's existence is not required for life to exist and be maintained. To start, by evaluating.
Well, I don't think that's how we use evolution. I think evolution itself, being that it is naturalistic, sort of implies that it works in a naturalistic way and therefore does not need God. Now, whether or not there is a God actually taking part in the evolutionary process is not a question we can answer. But I don't see why there would have to be one. Do I think there is one? Well, no, because there's no evidence for that. Evolution, as far as we can tell, is an entirely natural process, just like everything else that happens in the entire universe.
Evaluating the consequences of evolution, there are many assumptions that can be drawn from an evolutionary worldview. To name some,
There is what? What do you? There is no such thing as an evolutionary worldview. Evolution is a science. Like you can't go to evolution and be like, ah, yes, because of evolution, I think that being gay is cool. What does that have to do with evolution? Nothing. What is he calling an evolutionary worldview? Now, if he's saying that the knowledge of evolution makes you likely to think that there are naturalistic explanations for the universe, then I would say the answer is, well, yeah, but I'm not sure if that's what he's even saying. This is one of the problems with creationists. They use lingo that they understand very well amongst themselves, but which we have no real context for, and they don't very often explain. Also, take a shot if he says evidences.
some assumptions, they are that there are no absolute morals, there is no meaning in life.
Okay, this 100% has nothing to do with evolution, straight up. But if you want me to answer these from an atheistic perspective in general, there are no absolute morals. Well, correct, but the thing is, there aren't, even if you are a Christian. There's this thing called the divine command theory, which, among others, William Lane Craig believes in. The divine command theory says that, or is it a theory? I don't know what it is. I don't know what they call it. But divine command says that God is the cosmic judge and therefore can change the rules willy-nilly. Such as, for example, when Moses came down from the mountain with some tablets on which one said, "Thou shalt not kill," or more accurately rendered as, "Thou shalt not murder," which is the unjustified killing, he came down from the mountain and he saw people sacrificing, or not, maybe not sacrificing, I forget, was it sacrificing? Regardless, they were worshiping a golden calf. And he breaks the tablets on the ground, and he's really unhappy about that whole situation. What happens next? Well, 3,000 people end up being killed by Moses and his allies in this conflict, um, just for worshiping another god. So it's really thou shalt not kill or murder with an asterisk. I mean, and that's not the only example. Think about it like this. How does that story end? I mean, what happens when Moses dies? What happens next after Moses dies? Well, they go into the promised land, Canaan. And what happens? They genocide the Canaanites, ethnic cleansing, rape, slavery. They are blessed are they who dash the heads of babes against the rocks. This is God of the Bible saying, thou shalt not kill or murder, however you want to translate that, and then ordering murder on mass scales. So you can't really say they're absolute morals if there's such a huge asterisk next to it. Now, the second thing, there is no meaning in life. I mean, I think that's kind of self-evident. Even Christians ask what the meaning of life is. This guy right here, for example, he does this Christian apologetics channel, and he no doubt thinks that's very important. He probably goes to church. He prays a lot. He's probably full of the Lord. That's great. I'm happy for you, my guy. But I can also guarantee he's probably doing other things in his life. He probably has, like, career goals. He probably, loves women or men or whatever he's hiding. Probably stuff like that. So he has his own meaning that he has made on top of his Christian worldview. I mean, I know a ton of Christians, and Christianity is not the only thing they ever think about. Now, when they get older and they don't have anything better to do, it can be like most of what they think about. But for the most part, people are always looking for something to do with their lives, some meaning to give their lives. I mean, as Viktor Frankl said, I'm going to paraphrase it here, but we should not think of ourselves as the ones asking what is the meaning of life, but rather it is we who are asked, and we can only respond by being responsible. So yes, there is no meaning in life, and if there were an inherent meaning, like you got to worship God, that's a shitty meaning. So,
And that humans are simply evolved monkeys.
incorrect. Incorrect. Humans are apes. Monkeys are also apes. We both evolved from ape-like ancestors a long time ago. What does it mean to be an evolved monkey? Monkeys are also evolved. We did not evolve from monkeys. We are apes. We share a common ancestor. I don't understand why this is so hard to grasp. Maybe it's not. Maybe they're just making a joke like, haha, you think you're a monkey. Well, when I listen to people like this, the evidence becomes clearer and clearer.
Firstly, there are extreme implications in asserting that there are no absolute morals. Assumptions that can be drawn from there being no absolute morals would be that clothing is a social construct, people can change their gender, sex is a natural urge that can be expressed in any way, killing babies in the mother's womb is no different than killing an animal, humans do not have intrinsic value, and people...
Okay, let's break this down here. Clothing is a social construct. Well, I mean, clothing is definitely a construct. Do other animals have clothing? Well, not really. I imagine some do have something like clothing. But they do have, like, shelter. They do make shelter for themselves, which is what clothing is. Is there any, like, cosmic rule demanding that humans wear clothes? Well, no, of course not. People can change their gender. I mean, yeah. Can you change your biological sex from male to female? Well, no, but nobody is saying you can. Gender is a different thing. And yes, we're about to enter some, wild territory of gender is about how a person looks, feels, expresses themselves. If it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it must be a duck. A person who's born, quote unquote, biologically male, I know people don't like that kind of terminology, trans people don't, but we're going to go with it. A person who's born, quote unquote, biologically male can change their appearance and everything else to appear to be a woman. At that point, if you look like a woman, if you sound like a woman, if you, I don't know, walk like a woman, I don't know how women walk, but if you walk like a woman, if you have all the traits that typically identify somebody as a woman, what's the real difference between, that and being a woman? So, yeah, you kind of can change your gender if we view gender as being a thing that's separate from sex. If gender is about roles, then yes. Sex can be expressed in any way. What does that mean exactly? I mean, does that mean that gay people can be in love? Well, yeah, that's just objectively true. Gay people can be in love. Gay people can get married, have kids. Maybe not with each other necessarily, but, I guess it depends. Trans people, a trans man can get with a cis man and they can have kids together biologically, or a trans woman with a cis woman. sex can be expressed. That's a befuddling thing, isn't it? Sex can be expressed in any way. I don't know what that means, really. Is he saying, like, pedophilia is okay? Because it's not. Um, that's my subjective opinion. I don't think anything is, like, objective, really. Like, morality-wise, I don't think morality is objective. But subjectively, I can think a person sucks for what they do. Killing babies in the womb is okay. Well, in the Bible, it says that a soul is acquired upon the first breath, the breath of life, as it were. So, according to biblical standards, a person is not human until they take their first breath outside of the womb. So, by the Bible, that should be okay. Humans do not have intrinsic value. Uh, well, that's a complicated one, isn't it? I mean, so there is no like cosmic lawgiver saying that they have intrinsic value. I mean, the God of the Bible clearly didn't think so. He did flood the whole world and kill it once, and he promises to cleanse it with fire next time. So he doesn't seem to think so either. But I think humans do have some sense of intrinsic value for the species. On the whole, there are some humans who are like sociopaths, psychopaths, and that may be like innate to them. But on the whole, humans evolved as a collaborative species. We evolved to care about each other because if we didn't, the species would not have survived and would not have thrived and would not have become the world-dominating species we have. People are naturally good. Well, yeah, I mean, most people do try to be good people. This guy, I mean, he kind of sucks, let's be honest. He's young, thankfully, so he might grow out of it, but he kind of sucks. I mean, he doesn't like gay people. He doesn't want women to have rights. He doesn't think trans people are real. That's all terrible. But all that aside, I think this channel he's doing here is his way of expressing what he feels is good, what he thinks is the good in the world. It's him trying to be a good person. So even if I disagree very strongly with his opinions, which I do, I think this is like sort of a proof that he is trying to express his own goodness in some way. So that sort of like backs up the idea that most people are naturally good. I think I try to be good, and I don't have any religious reasons to be so. I think pretty much everybody I know tries to be good, whether they're religious or not. So yeah, I think people are mostly naturally good. Now, they fail, of course. We all fail at these things. We're not perfect, but who says we have to be, right?
Are naturally good, since all morals are social constructs anyway. From this large list of subjective morals, it makes sense why we see what we see in culture today. People are being given over to act to their own heart's desires by adopting a worldview that says there are no morals anyway. Evolution
How terrible. Imagine that, people being able to live their lives how they want instead of how you want. Horrific.
is the perfect weapon to be used by secularists, since it can be deemed scientific and it takes away the accountability that God demands from society. Secondly,
I mean, it really doesn't like do that, though. Evolution is science. Evolution is not philosophy. You can have any number of different philosophies and still think evolution is real. You can be Christian and think evolution is real. You can be Muslim and think evolution is real. Although, it depends on the branch. Like, in Iran, evolution is taught mandatorily in schools. In Turkey, not so much. You can be any number of things and think evolution is real, because it is. I mean, there's mountains of evidence for it. And beyond that, let's back away from that for a second, because regardless of the thought processes which a person will be led to as a result of understanding evolution as a real thing, it doesn't matter, because real is real. What it leads you to is secondary to the question of is it real or not. It is real, regardless of what worldview it leads you to. And I don't think it really does in most cases, but I digress. Had to say it.
there are extreme implications in asserting that there is no absolute meaning in life. Assumptions that can be drawn from there being no absolute meaning in life are similar to the conclusions of there being no absolute morals. But one important assumption to consider is that the meaning of life can be up to each individual. Ultimately,
You notice in these videos, they'll always say, like, the meaning of life is objective, that it's not subjective, and yet, very rarely do they actually tell you what the meaning of life is according to the Bible, according to Christianity. Isn't that curious? I think it's because they know, like, their meaning of life is actually, like, a really terrible thing for most people's ears, which is just serve God. That's it. That's the meaning of life. That's your whole purpose for being here. Serve God. Don't like it? Well, too bad. That's it. That's all you got.
individuals should eat, drink, and be merry because tomorrow they die.
Well, amen to that. Eat, drink, and be merry. I'm planning to do some of that today.
Lastly, there are extreme implications in asserting that humans are simply evolved monkeys.
What do you mean simply? Isn't simply kind of like a weasel word here? I don't think evolution is by any means a simple process at all. I don't think humans being evolved from ape like ancestors, not monkeys, is in any way an argument for our simplicity. Humans are obviously a little bit more complex than most other animals alive in terms of at least intelligence. We have capacity for rational thought and reasoning that most other animals will never have. I mean, there have been some in history that have had that, like archaic humans, other hominids have had, I guess, similar like reasoning capabilities to us. Maybe not on our level. I think we are probably about as smart as it gets on Earth. Plus a number of other terrible traits we've got that just like made us more likely to survive. See also the killer ape hypothesis. But when it comes down to it, I don't think there's any justification for saying humans are simply evolved monkeys because, well, first of all, we're not monkeys, we're apes. But that simply is a weird word to put in there. I mean, why does it matter if we are in fact animals? Because we are. We are objectively animals. We exist in the same way animals do. Like we have metabolisms. We have to eat and drink water to survive. We have the same organs that the other apes do. We have the same bone structures in different forms as the other apes do. We have, whatever it's called, organs. I'm sorry, I'm a southerner. We can't pronounce shit. And that, like, they harken back to our evolutionary past. We have, like, everything marking us as animals. These people want to act like we are not animals. We're different. We're born different. But no, we have all the same features and functions as other animals. They try to separate us from the animal kingdom, but that's impossible to do because we are animals. We are apes. We are the fifth great ape. I think we're the fifth. I'm not sure which number specific. I think we're the fifth, though.
The origin story of evolution was that humans evolved from monkeys, and this leads to a devious, racist worldview. Please consider.
Racist worldview. Doesn't it like do the opposite? I mean, hasn't the Bible been used to justify racism? Like it justifies slavery, ethnic cleansing. It's been responsible for the demonization of entire races. Evolution, how is evolution going to do that? Evolution is not based on race. It's species wide. Like humans, humans all around the world. There are very few actual differences between the different races of humans out there. I mean, now, there are some people who claim the opposite, but they have very little support in the scientific community because they are just cherry picking stuff, basically. But there are very few real differences between different races. I mean, you can say that pee sizes are a little bit different, skin colors obviously a little bit different, maybe heights are different, that sort of thing. But those are all pretty small differences. Where it counts, we're pretty much all the same. And we are all modern humans. We are all Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens, even. So, I don't know how you're saying like that justifies racism. I mean, we, as a species, none of the races of humanity is essentially weaker than other races of humans and less fit for survival. The fact that other races exist in different environments, I mean, obviously, in multicultural society, we have a multicultural world at this point for the most part. So you'll find all kinds of people pretty much everywhere in the world. But, I guess you could say that different ethnicities come from different regions of the world. Those ethnicities are adaptations to specific conditions in different parts of the world. So people of different ethnicities are, in fact, I guess you could say, suited to survive in the environments where those ethnicities originated. And so that means every human that is alive is fit as a human. If we're talking about survival of the fittest, which is, I think, the element he's going for here, that other races are going to be less fit, that simply doesn't seem to be the case. I mean, we're here for a reason. That all the races that exist are here for a reason. Every race that exists, every ethnicity, is essentially just an adaptation that made it more likely to survive longer in a given environment. That's it. So it seems to me like evolution would do the opposite of provide excuses for racism. I went on rambling for another 3 minutes after making my point, so I thought I'd just spare you all and cut that out.
Consider the conclusion that must be drawn if we assume that humans evolved from monkeys. If we have evolved from monkeys, then some people are more monkey than others, and therefore are worse.
No, that's not how that works. That's the big silly because, again, we are all apes. We did not evolve from monkeys. If you want to get technical, if you want to assume that that ape is just like another word for monkey, then in fact, we are all monkeys. We did not evolve beyond the apes. We did not transcend the great. We are apes. We are hairless apes. That's what we are.
Worthy of less dignity than others because they're not as human as the rest of us. Logic.
Or alternatively, and this is where I'm gonna have to like shout out to the vegans and the animal rights people, or maybe the thing is, animals deserve rights too. Maybe that there shouldn't really be that much of a distinction between humanity and animals in terms of how they are treated and the rights they are given. Now, that being said, I am not a vegan. I am a filthy carnivore, and I feel bad about it. You don't have to get on to me, vegans. But, maybe, just maybe, humans aren't really inherently more valuable than animals anyway, and that's just something we do because we are human. Maybe, just maybe. I'm just throwing that out there.
Logically, then, there would be superior ethnicities to other ethnicities because some would be deemed more intelligent or more evolved than others.
Chill out, Hitler. So here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether, like, let's say that there are really big differences between different races in, like, intelligence. Let's say that's actually true. What makes you think that intelligence is more valuable as a survival trait than, like, lower intelligence? What makes you think that? Now, for humans, obviously, intelligence was a very advantageous trait when we were facing off against other intelligent hominids. But what makes you think at this point intelligence is a real net benefit for survival of the species? And think about it like this. There have been reports that humans have gotten a lot smarter over the last like 50, 60 years, like that recent generations have much higher IQs or standards for intelligence, and there's could be a lot of reasons for that. But on the whole, I mean, there will always be more average people than geniuses. If superintelligence was really like that important of a trait for the survival of the species, wouldn't humans have like much higher average IQs? I mean, look at the range of IQs currently, like the difference between like a genius IQ and an average IQ. If intelligence were really that important for the survival of the species, like beyond a point, you would expect that gap to be much, much narrower. So what makes you think you can determine what is important evolutionarily for survival? See, this is a big mistake a lot of people make. They think like, well, humans are smart, so like it must be intelligence that is the best thing for survival. And yes, to a point, that is the case. For humans, intelligence has made the difference. But there's really no indication that intelligence above a certain level really helps the survival of the species that much. I mean, it helps on the whole because a person can contribute like, scientific breakthroughs, for example. But when it comes to simple reproduction, there's no proof of that assertion. So in order to like say that, even if there are big differences between races in terms of these like characteristics, how are you really going to know what traits are evolutionarily advantageous and should be kept up in the gene pool? You're not. I mean, that's not a decision humans can make for humans. When it comes to like animals, so like artificial selection, we know what we want out of specific animals. We want cows that can produce milk constantly. We want, turkeys that are big, giant, fat turkeys that we can, eat from forever, feed the whole family with. We want chickens that constantly produce really good eggs. We breed them for specific purposes. Humans have a very, very wildly diverse role set. I mean, think of all the myriad of roles there are in human civilization. How do you know what traits to select for in humanity when we have such a wide range of possibilities and roles to serve? You don't. You just don't.
Not that we're all one human race. Now, to an evolutionist hearing these claims, the extreme implications of evolution might not seem so extreme. After all, if an
No, but your lack of intelligence here sort of does. Like, you think you're being profound, you think you're being deep, but really what's happening here is you sound very ill-educated on these subjects. You sound like you're not thinking these subjects through properly. Now, I don't think this guy is an idiot. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he's a moron or anything like that. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, in this particular area, he thinks he's onto something. but he sounds phenomenally unintelligent about it. I'm sure the kid is smart. I think he's probably a smart guy. But here, on this particular set of subjects, he is not. He could stand to read a little bit more.
Evolutionist accepts that the implications of evolution are extreme and that it is inconsistent with our God-given consciences and what it tells us is right and wrong, they would have to give up the sins that they love. This is
Okay, that's really nice. We're going into the typical atheists just want to be sinners thing. No, the Christians have a hard time understanding this. They say God gave us morals and morality. Do I feel in my heart of hearts it's wrong to be gay or gay married? Well, no, I think that's perfectly fine. I feel like that's perfectly fine. I am a queer person. I am bisexual. I'm married to a woman, but I have been in the past in relationships with men. I could have gotten married to a man at one point. We were engaged for a little bit. And when I was in a relationship with a man or with multiple men at once, I've had some really fun times. When I was doing that stuff or just having casual, things with people, did I feel guilty about that? Well, no, because I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Christians can't explain this. I mean, they say God has written the law on the hearts of every man. But if that were the case, I'd probably have felt worse about being super queer, wouldn't I? But I didn't. I felt fine about it. So if God wrote the law in my heart, he must have made a typo.
is why Christians must fight back against evolution that culture holds so strongly to, because they can use this belief for lawlessness and indoctrinate
That culture holds so. You are an American, dude. This place is so Christian, it hurts.
children into this lawlessness. If people have evolution as a foundation for what they believe, they will not believe the Bible, and not only that, they will continue justifying what they do because there's no meaning anyway. We are seeing lawlessness.
See, though, that just is a bunch of nonsense. Atheists, for example, are underrepresented in prison populations. Christians are overwhelmingly represented in prisons. Atheists are much less likely to be in prison or go to prison. Now, you might say, well, atheists are just super smart and can avoid getting caught for crimes. I don't think that's the case. I don't think, atheists are all super geniuses, serial killers getting away with crimes. I don't think that's the case. But dudes like this, it seems like they think that's really the case. In fact, atheists are every bit as good as you or anyone else. We just disagree on a lot of subjects, so that's kind of fun. But yeah, this guy, I tell you, people don't know this sometimes because I guess I look super young. I'm almost 34. I'll be 34 in a few months. If you're watching this in the future, this is April 2024. I'll be 34 in a few months. People think I look really young. They're like, you must have a great skincare routine. Nope, I wash my face. That's about it. Oh, you must have a really healthy lifestyle. Nope, I eat like a pig, and I drink a lot, and I have been a chain smoker. I stopped smoking recently, but I have been a chain smoker. So, nope, I look much younger than I actually am. But I said all of that to say this. There is something admirable about youth in the sense that when you are young, when you are, let's say, 18-ish. I don't know how old this guy is. He could be anywhere from 18 to 21. He's got a very small face, very small features. He's probably going to be a small person for his whole life. He's probably not going to be a big 6-foot linebacker at any point. He's a small dude. So it's hard to tell how old exactly he is. But I'll guess, let's say 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there. I remember what it was like being 18, 19, and 20, so it's kind of hard for me to be too harsh on the kid, because I know as an 18, 19, 20-year-old, you have this invulnerability of youth thing where you think you know just everything. You think you've got all the answers, and you think you're about to set everybody straight about everything. And I appreciate that. I really do. I think it's silly, but I appreciate it. I mean, when you're young, you are convinced you've got the answers. And I think we all have that throughout our lives. I mean, obviously, as a 30-something-year-old, I think, well, I was so silly. I was so ridiculous as a teenager. I thought I had all the answers, and I didn't have anything. Because now I'm old enough to know I didn't have it. But now I think I've got good answers. And we just do this throughout our lives. When you get to 70 or whatever, you're just when I was 30-something, I really thought I had all the answers. But now that I'm 70, I really have all the answers. So we just do this throughout our lives. But with young people, it's especially funny and ironic because, when you're this young, how much can you really know about these things? And your understanding is even the best is going to be very incomplete. So what we're witnessing here is like we got a probably smart kid who understands a fair number of things, and therefore he's like got this Dunning-Kruger thing going on where he thinks he understands a lot more than he does. And I'm not making fun of him for this because I was the same way. I probably still am the same way. We're all prey to these sorts of things. Dunning-Kruger is something that impacts everybody. But here, the curve is especially strong, right? So he thinks he's got it. He thinks he's onto something here, and I really do appreciate it because it's just like, it's good in a sense. It's good that the dude is thinking about these things so early, because think of how many people aren't thinking about these things at all. I know a lot of people, a lot of younger people who are in their like early 20s or whatever, who just don't care about these things. The fact that he's thinking about it is, in my opinion, a good thing. So I don't want to like make fun of him, but I just, that's an unrelated rant to the whole religion thing. I just have to, step back and appreciate for a second that whole invulnerability of youth, where just like they know everything, they're going to set the world straight, all that stuff. It's really great, and that's just, it never changes. I mean, your understanding of things change, but like that attitude in some form sticks with you throughout life. It's just a lot more pronounced when you know a lot less, it seems like.
Now, which is a result of evolution becoming so widespread, the human heart has finally gotten what it wants, justification for it to live any way it wants to. Of course,
does he really believe this, though? I mean, do most people care about evolution? No. Do most people who even like really care about evolution use evolution to justify what they think about the world? Well, no. And like I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I am a natural atheist. There was never a point at which I believed in God. I came from a super fundamentalist family. They tried to brainwash me, the works. I never believed it. And I didn't believe it because like it's not like I knew about evolution at the Big Bang. I was also very sheltered as a kid. I didn't know about these things, but I just knew, like when they told me this God stuff, I was like, that doesn't sound right. And then I found out about evolution and the Big Bang, and I was like, now that makes a lot of sense. But I already had the worldview of an atheist, of a natural nihilist, before I even knew about the science. So let's keep going.
as Christians, we know that if it were not evolution that were used to give the human heart the ability to do what it wants, it would be something like paganism. But that does not mean that we should not try to stop evolution as it becomes more widespread. The reason why
You can't stop science. I mean, how are you going to stop science? You don't have any say. You don't have any like dog in this fight. You can just say, well, evolution is wrong, man. That's not going to stop scientists from doing what they do every single day, day in and day out.
people have this heart towards sin. And
Yeah, what do these people think like scientists are getting paid to do anyway? Do they think like biologists are getting paid to just like sit around and just like make up shit about evolution all the time? Is that what they think is going on here?
opposition towards God is because when Adam sinned in the Garden of Eden, his sin made it so everyone else would have a sin nature and they would have to bear the consequences of that sin. People naturally love their sin for this reason.
I heard an alert. I can't tell if that was my alert or if that was his alert. Regardless, the whole Adam nature thing doesn't make any sense. If Adam committing sin imbued humans with a sinful nature, then how did Adam sin? Didn't he already have that sinful nature? I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me, but, they always seem to overlook that for some reason.
But the Bible clearly states that all liars have their part in the lake of fire, which is hell. This is because God is righteous and cannot let evildoers dwell
Very curious how the Jews never believed that, isn't it?
with him. But this is why God made a way of escape, which was Jesus Christ. He lived a perfect life. He was fully God and fully man. He died on the cross for our sins and then rose again from the dead 3 days later. The only way that anyone ever has or ever will be able to make it to heaven is by faith. You must turn from your sins and trust in God instead of any of your good works to save you on Judgment Day.
Suppose you were walking by my house one day. You've been walking by for a long time. And I were to go up on the porch and say, hey, stop, I've got some good news. Good news for you people. Stop, stop, stop. You don't have to go down in my basement. This is great news. You've been walking by all this time. You've been ignoring me, and I deserve to be recognized and honored. And you've been ignoring me, and it's made me so angry and so mad that I just get so horribly mad. So I built this torture chamber down in the basement. And there's some hooks down there, and there's some sharp things, and there's some vats of sneaky stuff, and there's a furnace, and there's some chains, and it's horrible, and there's flames. But you don't have to go down there. I sent my son down there. And it was gruesome. I tell you, it was really horrible. But that satisfied my anger. And now his blood was shed, and now you're free. You don't have to go down. All you have to do, come on up here. Just come up and tell my son that you love him, and hug him, and then you can move in with us. We'll live up in the attic, and you can tell me how great I am. You can just tell me how much you love me, and we'll do that. Won't that be great? So would you keep walking?